One of the biggest questions I get asked as a business mentor from clients, consultants, freelancers, and other business owners is this one. How do I price my programs and services? It's a mystery for many. And that's what we're going to tackle on today's episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message with myself, your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. I have a really unique background. I've worked in marketing, sales, operations, and finance in more than 400 businesses to create $1 billion in revenue. And understanding pricing and value creation has been the growth and the reason for the successful track record I have. I want to start at the very beginning of understanding pricing and the models that are available. And then we're going to talk about encouraging you to think about shifting your model so that you can see scalable results in your business without working 24/7. The first business model that most business owners start with is a price per hour model. And I get where this comes from because many of us come from the world of corporate where we're used to working a salary, and the salary has always been tied by this is how many hours you need to work in order to receive that income. However, as a business owner, it is a false lens in which you look through because revenue is not the same as profit. Capacity is always going to be a difference maker in the conversation because most of us wanted to start our business not to be working 100 hours a week, but to actually have that time freedom. And yet, whenever we are looking at price per hour, we can be driven to poor decision making, both as a client and as the business owner. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, let's be clear. This is such an important thing. I would encourage you to write this down and put a Post-it note to remind you of this near your workspace. Clients do not want to pay for your time. Let me say it again because it's so important. Clients do not want to pay for your time. So pricing yourself per hour sets up a dangerous horse trading philosophy. What your client is 100% prepared to pay for is a result. And when they choose to work with a service provider, a consultant, a freelancer, or a small business, what they're saying in simple terms is, I want the result, and working with you will save me time and money and improve the odds of getting it versus doing it on my own. And so understanding that, you don't want to get into the conversation of, do I want to spend that 1 hour? Because I know it has a very specific price tag. When your client gets into that thinking and that philosophy, it can lead to poor decision making because they won't always ask all the questions they have. And if you only get half information, your decision grade information slides. And if your decision information slides, the probability of the successful result you started with is also deteriorating. And so it's dangerous. And so I encourage people from a client's perspective, recognize that they do not want to pay for their time and don't price your products and services on a time measure because they'll constantly try to narrow it down, look for a cheaper alternative, and you have moved yourself into a commodity. And trust me, that is a losing proposition. On the business owner side, when you are looking at yourself and your service as a cost per hour, as I said, that revenue number isn't the only number you should be looking at. And in fact, it can be also the false indicator that you work so many hours. And why is it that you have no money at the end of the day? Well, it comes down to you need to understand profitability, not just revenue. And you do need to understand your capacity because when you've set yourself at a cost per hour business pricing model, you are capped at how much income you can earn. And you are tied to that capacity number. And because you're tied to those two things, often you will be concerned that you must fill the gap. And so you maybe take work you don't really particularly want, or you think the only way to get more income is to work harder, but that's how you burn out. Nobody started this journey to being a business owner because they wanted to work themselves into the ground. And so we need to shift right away from an idea that we're going to be costing ourselves per hour to a different kind of pricing model. So let's look at that. What is the alternate pricing model that I want to encourage you to be looking at? And it's the one I work with all of my clients on. It is a package type pricing that is focused around the value of the result your client is seeking. When you are understanding that an investment with you, i.e., someone buys your programs or services, only happens when two things are at play. Number one, there is value on the table. And number two, there is a desire to achieve that result faster, less expensive than they could get there on their own. And if the value and that speed is seen as higher than your investment rate, you have a window of opportunity to get a yes. If you are not seen as higher value than what your pricing is, unfortunately, no's will be the common answer to your offers. So when you're packaging your pricing, you need to first get the first conversation happening, which is, where do you see value? I tell all of my clients, I said, I won't make you an offer until I understand the value you see in my services. And I said, this is so important. Please don't guess about the value. Ask. And value is driven by two things. Yes, for sure, they're monetary considerations. In my case, it's how much do you charge your current clients? What is your service rate? How many clients are you serving? And how many more are you seeking to gain by working with me? Simple understanding of the math, the dollars and cents. What's often missed, and this is a gold nugget to take away from this episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message, is it isn't just the monetary value that you need to be asking about. What are all the spillover effects? What if by working with me, you didn't spend 100 hours a week on your business? What happens if we could cut that back significantly? What's the impact to your relationships? What's the impact to your health? What's the impact to the way you feel, your mental stagnitude, your magnitude of it all? It's significant. I want to understand the intangibles, and taking it one step further, it's what's the lifetime value of learning the habits, the skill set to create those results over and over and over again. When you start to see that value in the broader context, trust me when I tell you it's going to be so much higher than the cost rate per hour you started with. And while that might be true in concept, what's equally important is you must be able to convey that. You must be able to reinforce it. You must be able to see and meet with your client an understanding around that value and understand that the value is clear. The next question is urgency. Why is doing it now a priority? This is something that is simple sales 101. But I will tell you, you must get confident with the pricing. You must get confident with the understanding of the value exchange. And I want to encourage you to look not just at the short-term monetary side, but the long-term lifetime value. Because you're working with a client who's driven to get the results. And yes, right now they might be thinking, I need it once and I would pay for it. But you, to create more value in your business, is about what's the lifetime value? How can I constantly add more value? It's the number one thing I ask myself in my business. It's the number one thing I ask my clients. And I don't get caught up into the cost per hour conversation. It doesn't happen in my head, and it certainly doesn't happen with my conversations either. Because when we understand that the package is what the client is looking for because it's tied to the value and the result, everything shifts in terms of what is scalable for your business. I tell my clients, when you're working at a cost per hour, you are finite in what you can earn. You're finite to your capacity. And the challenge is you often run yourself into the ground. When we shift to package-based pricing and we understand that value exchange, I always say to people, what would it be like instead of serving 100 people at low value, we served a fraction of that at high value? My business, as many of you know, Clear Acceleration, is about low tech, high touch, high impact. I would rather serve 20 clients very well with huge value and great friendships and a long-term support plan in place than intersecting at 1,000 people in my business. And I've priced myself accordingly. I've built my programs and service accordingly, because what matters to me is that the confidence you feel in getting the result is given and it's reinforced. And while you at the beginning of our working relationship under the Business Scale Accelerator is like, I see the value, what you don't yet know is the lifetime value. But I've done that thinking for you. I've thought about how can we create more value? What rooms can I get you into? I'm asking for the feedback all of the time. Would this be helpful if you had this as well? It is what creates movement. It's what creates momentum. And when that happens, and I say it often to clients who come to work with me and who come in saying, right now, the reason I need support is because I'm working 60 hours a week. Plus, I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sure I'm taking yeses. I don't know where my next client is coming from. I said, what if we could get off that crazy train? What if we could shift and understand how to build an audience of buyers that want what you have and see the value? What if we could shore up the priorities so that you had conversations with those who are truly in a place to invest with you and not just tire kickers? And what if we could serve a smaller group of people, but really, really well, so that you actually had the lifestyle you wanted? Because that is what is possible when you work with me. And I know that because that's what I wanted. It's what I help my clients to achieve. And then the conversation comes around, how do we deliver it? And honestly, every great experience, when you focus on how do we create more value, the number one thing I hear from my clients is, she's well paid and I would have paid her more. Why? Because the value at an infinite level was so much more than the investment level. And that goes back to those simple foundations that I talked about, which is there's a problem with price per hour. The alternative package, when you're focused on result-driven pricing, because you understand that your client does not want to pay for time, they want to pay for the result. And you know, when you've understood the value, that two things are at play: short-term monetary and time wins, but the long-term lifetime value. And when you understand the philosophy and, more importantly, are able to communicate it in your marketing message, your conversion rates are high. The right people are in your room. And when you have the question, when someone comes into your space and says, tell me what it's like to work with you, the first conversation you should be asking is, where do you see my value? Why do you believe I am the must-hire choice for you? What is the urgency to solve this? And what is the consequence of not having that repeatable success in your business? And once you understand that, that's when you make the offer and said, it looks like this. When do you want to start? And I will tell you that this commitment that I will give you and you will have is going to be to ensure that result. Yes, there are no guarantees, but I have the pattern, the roadmap, and I understood your value. And most important for me, just me as an individual business owner, I'm always asking, how can I create more value? Because it's fun. It's just a being of service at the very highest level. It is the impact of the ripples I want to create as a human being. So today we've talked about the biggest question that clients, freelancers, business consultants, small business owners, and entrepreneurs have, which is, how do I price my services? I want you to shift. Instead of thinking about you justifying your pricing, I want you to think about, what is the value you're seeking? And how would you describe it? And once you gain into that conversation, you'll know how to price your programs in a packaged service delivery. And then you show up and deliver at the very highest level. That's how you will create raving fans. It's how you will create highly profitable businesses, because clients that see value in your business every day stay. And we know business will tell you in every industry, the cost of a new client is higher than a retained one. Why do clients retain with me in my business? Because I'm constantly creating more value for them. I'm constantly on the lookout for their best interest. It's so fun. I want that for you. So if you're curious and you think you might need some help, let's have that conversation. I offer a Business Scale Accelerator session, which is a brainstorming session about your business at 50,000 feet. And if you think that there's gaps that I can help you bridge, we might have a conversation of what my programs and services look like, if there is opportunity to create value together. I want you to subscribe to this episode, this podcast, Amplify Your Marketing Message, because we're going to give you the roadmap to creating a repeatable system for your business growth, so that you are not working 100 hours a week, but you build the life you want, highly profitable, fun clients consistently coming into your business. I am Christine Campbell Rapin. I'm the owner of Clear Acceleration. We will see you on our next episode. Take care.